establishers and keepers of the Luna colony. The pioneers of moonjets and space stations, the ones who fly us high and over the moon. Over the Moon's logo is quite possibly the single most recognizable icon in the Imperial era. Unlike most modern megacorporations, OTM was never a small company. OTM was started in 1978 as the world's 10th billionaire Peter Reed tried to become a commercial rival to the Imperial Science Division's Space Wing. With his fortune gained through massive amounts of investment in a multitude of companies, of which many were tech-based, the only thing stopping him was a lack of aerospace-specific technologies and information. This hindrance wouldn't stop Reed and the scientists at OTM, however. Miraculously, they were able to make the first private space launch only 5 years after the creation of the company. This achievement was doubly impressive because their rockets were built from scratch and were considerably more efficient than the ISD's rocket ships. These facts were not ignored by the ISD, who soon began investing in the half-decade-old company in the hopes of cooperation. For over 20 years, joint operations defined OTM and the ISD's relationship. In that time, studies on plant, human, and other animal growth in space were studied, virology was advanced, space infrastructure was haphazardly scrapped together, and star mapping technology became thousands of times more crisp. However, with growing concerns of fuel crises planet-side, the speed of development slowly began to halt more and more. 2 decades into the 2000s, talk began circulating of a massive project to be started if the worldwide fuel and ecological crises were to be solved. By 2024, this project would be revealed to the world. A research colony on Inkuna's moon, the closest body to humanity's home planet. OTM was soon inducted into the planning for and creation of most of the hardware for the project. With the renewed vigor of nearly 20 years hibernation, OTM burst out from the Earth like a fruiting tree. There were a myriad of factors contributing to this, but by the end of 2025, lunar residencies, farms, and science stations on the nearest portion of the moon were set up. These frontier sites started off only capable of holding 220 people year-round, with periodic food and water supply trips. Almost as soon as Luna became successful, plans for developing Sol 4, at the time called Mars, began. After years of planning the logistics of the much longer voyage, both for setup and habitation, the first preliminary launches were a go in 2030. Every window of opportunity, extra supplies would be sent to the planet for 4 years. At that point, colonists were ready to be sent to the planet. Soon after the massive expedition to the new Dulicus colony, the greatest mega-project in human history up to that point was to begin construction. In 2034, the ISD allied with several companies, including OTM, to create the heart of London and the Inkunan space elevator. OTM was tasked with creating the London space station that sits atop the tower. This station needed to be able to move up and down for a variety of reasons. Also, if some hazard were ever to require it, the station would need to be able to break off from the tower or break the tower down from it and maintain course for several weeks. OTM was also tasked with creating unified docking systems for spacecraft and the station. OTM juggled several designs, many of which they planned to also put on non-Inkunan bodies if the chance arrived. However, only one design stuck, the design that currently stands atop the single largest structure ever built by the Empire, centralized in its most prestigious capital. After the creation of the space elevator, OTM began a rapid expansion in aerospace commercialization. This push was headed by the introduction of the now iconic over-the-moon monochrome spacesuits. Replacing the primarily white suits of previous years, this friendly and recognizable face allowed the company to secure incredibly lucrative deals with colonial powers, thrill seekers, exploration guilds, and companies seeking outward trade. These ventures and the ubiquity of OTM were key in securing a hand in one of humanity's greatest discoveries. With the long partnership the Empire and OTM shared, and the huge amount of control over space transport OTM had, the ISD only found it fit to ask OTM scientists to help in the refinement of a recently discovered universal law into usable technology. This universal law is the cornerstone of modern interconnectivity in the Empire, the quantum slip effect. For the purposes of speaking of its effect on Imperial culture, a small science course is required. By chaining charged-affected particles with a quantum-locked particle that has a targeted destination atom, instant spatial transportation was able to be achieved. Regardless of the quantum slip's advancements to scientific understanding, its economic implications were felt empire-wide. Dulicus could be traveled to instantly. The same was true of Luna. Both experienced massive growth in trade, development, and immigration in the coming years. This technology also was crucial in setting up Brevis and its sibling array of asteroid microcolonies. With this time of unprecedented growth, OTM, its quantum slip drives, its spacecraft of various types, and its ever-present influence spread like wildfire. With the turn of the century, the quantum slip drive would come to revolutionize the Empire once again, allowing ISD specialists to uncover and quickly evacuate the Shu Aishika species from the derelict arc at the outer edge of our solar system. While of course, the Q-slip effect and drives are not a purely OTM effort, it's hard to argue that humanity would have gained control over this aspect of the universe without the company's efforts. While it had long been the Empire's most wide-reaching company at the time, the 2100s spelled the doom of OTM's near monopoly in space. Many still considered it the face of space travel, and given its 47% share of all the money spent on space commerce in the past 7 decades, it's not hard to see why. However, with companies like Magnetron, Onyx, or Blacktron, and a slew of others, the days of its 80 to 100% stranglehold on the industry are long gone. Regardless of this loss, OTM still continued to raise pay for its employees and stay in Imperial good faith as it expanded into mining, merchandising, farming, and interspecies politics. Despite its continued status as the Empire's largest megacorporation by capital, it also holds the award for most worker-friendly space corporation due in part to its incredibly high payouts. That being said, many cynics would be quick to point out Imperial regulations on payment standards, forcing them to pay their relatively low amount of workers. For reference, OTM only has as many employees as Onyxtron, and despite having 24% more of a share of their common industries. As of recent decades, OTM launched the Futron line of moonjets, space ferries, and spacesuits in 2151, as a celebration of the bicentennial of the first spaceflight. As far as the Red Winter War is concerned, without a significant fighting force and very few Eurasian ventures, OTM didn't have the ability nor any specific reason to help out in the actual warring. However, both during and since, OTM has provided aid and trade ports to many cities affected by the war, with the megacity of Suez receiving over $600 billion in repair donations alone. OTM is without a doubt the face of private space travel, pioneering or taking part in nearly every advancement in the field. Its logo is stained in the mind of nearly every Imperial citizen, even our Shu Aishika siblings. It began with the motto, "Humanity is bound to fly the skies, swim the oceans, and sail over the moon," but it has made sure that we're able to do much more than sail to Nkunu's closest neighbor, instead granting us the key to the solar community in which we now live.